So one of the hot, painful issues that the Jewish community is going through, particularly the religious Jewish community, although of course not unique to the religious community, but we have to deal with this. We have to come up with some true wisdom in handling this crisis, and that is the crisis of molestation, of children, of innocence, of people taking advantage, and so on. And what's particularly meaningful is that we be careful that we don't mix the disciplines and try to be what we're not, or do what we're not cut out to do. What is the role of a rabbi? Let's get right to the point. So I had an opportunity to be speaking to a group of educators and rabbis in Israel, and of course we touched on the subject. Rabbis should not attempt to be amateur psychologists or therapists and leave that for the professionals. It's not our job to protect the abusers from police or from civil lawsuits for going through the court system. That's the law of the land, and that's the way it has to be. What then is the role of a rabbi? What contribution can we make, and must we make? And how important is it to the welfare and to the recovery of the abused, of the victim? The rabbi's job is to present the background, the foundation, the fundamentals of life that have been shaken by the experience. So there are two things going on. There's the personal stuff. Who am I? What am I? Does anybody love me anymore? Am I bad? Am I good? Am I guilty? A lot of personal stuff. But behind all of that, or beneath all of that, there's a foundation of life itself. So when a person is hurt, there are degrees of damage. You're hurt because you don't know what to think of yourself, you're suffering shame, you're suffering fear, you're suffering guilt. But then there's a kind of damage that goes way beyond that. It completely pulls the rug out from under you, in that you don't know what life is anymore. So it's one thing to say, I don't know who I am, and I got to get myself together, versus what is life? A jungle? Is it even worth living? Is there any hope left for an enthusiastic, pleasurable life in the future? This is the role of the rabbi. It has always been our role. The role of the rabbi is to present God's vision as to what makes life worth living, why is the world necessary, why were we born in the first place, what are we here to accomplish, and how do we accomplish it if we've had serious setbacks and serious damage caused to ourselves. We need to tell people what the significance and sanctity of life means, that cannot be damaged, that even damaged people are precious and necessary and can do unbelievably good things. And I'm reminded of this psychologist, a famous psychologist back in the 50s, who wrote a book called Whatever Became of Sin. Whatever Became of Sin. He was upset that clergymen were showing an interest in his field in psychology. They wanted to learn more, they were curious. And he said to them, you do your job, and it will make it easier on us, and we won't have to work so hard. So he wrote this book, Whatever Became of Sin. We used to know right from wrong. We used to know morality, and it kept us strong. Of course, sometimes we failed, we misbehaved, and we felt guilty. But morality was strong, it was firm. We knew where we stood. When clergymen, and I think particularly rabbis, give up their role and let that foundation go weak, and then on top of that, children are molested, it makes it so much harder for the cure and for the recovery and for the enthusiasm in life that is necessary to continue living with. We need to do our job. So when speaking to a victim, and they do come to us because they're looking for that kind of an answer, they're getting the therapy that they need for themselves, but they also need that authentic, age-old truth. Life is still good. You are still necessary. You are important to a vast eternal plan. Nothing terrible can possibly destroy that plan, no matter how evil it is. They need to hear this from a rabbi. And if we start dabbling in psychological issues, we're not helping at all. The story of Hanukkah is a very, very important spiritual message. Hanukkah was a time when Jews were living in Israel and we had our own sanctuary, Holy of Holies, and it was violated. Jerusalem was raped, and the oil was contaminated. It wasn't innocent anymore. We had lost our innocence, seemingly. The story of Hanukkah, which is so powerful, is that regular oil can be contaminated. The real oil is always innocent and pure. And that's why the Jews refused to light the menorah with the contaminated oil, which was available in abundance, and insisted on lighting the menorah with this pure innocence, which lies at the core of our innocence, which then illuminates 8 days, every day of the week, plus more. So the rabbi's role has not become redundant, has not been replaced by therapy, by mental health professionals. We each have our role. So what the Jewish community needs to do is use all the resources, the legal, the professional, the medical, and not forget. We are here for 4,000 years. We have some wisdom that is absolutely necessary for life itself, certainly for someone who has been severely hurt, disappointed, and disillusioned. So let's do our job. Let's not get into hysterics on the subject. Let's be wise. Let's not scare the victim more than necessary, and tell them what they need to hear when they come for therapy. You're not a substitute for the police, and you're not a substitute for the therapists. But nothing can substitute for what a rabbi needs to do and what we need to give to people. So that is just a tip of the iceberg. There is so much to learn, there is so much to know, and there is so much we can do to help people back on the right path without any lingering ill effects, because that cruise of oil can never be damaged.